Good morning, everybody. This is exciting to have this type of programming on the kickoff of Market. And thanks for inviting us to be on this first panel. So we're all going to just introduce ourselves a little bit before we get into the heart of the matter. I'm Jane Dagmi. I am the Managing Director of High Point by Design. And High Point by Design is an organization with a mission to activate High Point year-round. Market is an incredible experience for all of us, and High Point, outside of Market, is a really cool town. So it's my job to promote and support it and give you good reasons to come back, which are some of the reasons might be resourcing, bringing a client, coming for education. And I was the former editor-in-chief of Designers Today magazine, so I really love getting into good, hearty subject matter. And just a little aside, we are 2 weeks after Market, not the best timing, but you know what? You have to plan around Market. We're doing a conference called Design Forward, and we have one day devoted to the design trade. Lisa Kahn is joining me for that, and it's going to be about why you should care about designing for neurodiversity. We have a lighting specialist coming, and we're going to be doing that at Universal. So that's me.
I'm Lisa Kahn Allen, and I own an interior design firm in Naples, Florida. I can't believe my firm is going to turn 25 this next year. I must have obviously started it when I was 10. Anyway, I have inadvertently become a bit of a specialist in design for the neurodiverse population because I have a daughter who has special needs. She is both intellectually and developmentally disabled. She has epilepsy, she has ODD. There's a whole host of diagnoses that she has, and it has been a very interesting journey as a designer, as a mom, and as a family, honestly, having her in our midst and really learning how deeply our environments affect our health. And they just affect our health on every level so profoundly. It's not just our physical health, really, that is affected by our spaces. It's our mental health, it's our emotional health, and at times, I even suspect it's a bit on the spiritual end as well. So it has been a very first-hand experience for me, this learning. It's been very hands-on, and I have really gotten to know front and center for myself and for my own experience what works and what doesn't. So I'm excited to be able to bring that to some of you today. I think this is a really important discussion, and I think that there has been a lot of talk in the media about neurodiversity and what it is. This is not something that we talked about when I was growing up. We just had kids in school that were naughty, and we had kids in school that were good. But it's really different today, and now that we're understanding some of the nuances and some of the gray areas that go along with really what is a spectrum of mental health, of neurodiversity, I think we as designers really have this amazing opportunity, and honestly, a responsibility to plug in and really be able to meet our clients where they are and really be able to help them experience well-being at the deepest levels. So,
hello, everyone. My name is Patricia Kennedy of Rendezvous Design, and I am a wellness experience designer. Have been in the industry for about 30 years in design, starting in Paris and haute couture textiles. And then interiors, I started when I lived in Tokyo for 8 years. That was about 20 years ago. And then wellness design, specifically neurodivergent design, for 14 years. So yesterday marked the 14-year anniversary where I sustained a traumatic brain injury and near-death experience. So with that, I was on a personal path of discovering what would help me heal. So the first doctor I went to said, "You're like Humpty Dumpty. Once you scramble the eggs, you can't unscramble them." And so that was the beginning of a very long journey where I had to figure out how to design spaces to really help myself heal. And so from that, developed a roadmap to be able to help others. And I would love to share that with you all today, as well as acknowledging that wellness for us is not a trend. For us, it's our life, and it's our ability to find a way to adapt. And you start with at home and making your space feel good so that you can recover, feel better, and then contribute back to the world.
You guys are rock stars, seriously. So I like to kind of just all get on the same page so we all know what we're talking about when we define and talk about neurodiversity, neurodivergence. So do you want to, as more experts than me, just go through a little bit of what we discuss? Yeah.
Sure. So I think it's great to start with the definition of neurodivergence. Some of you may be familiar with it, but it's just variations in cognition on how we think, interact, learn, and live in the world. And so acknowledging that there are these differences, some of the cognitions include autism, ADHD, OCD, anxiety, PTSD, brain injuries, so acquired neurodivergence, and other cognitive differences. But what's interesting is I think it's such a prevalent situation in today's world that there are global population of 8 billion and upwards of 20-25% identify as being neurodivergent. So quick show of hands. How many of you all, either yourself, a family member, or a friend, would you say are neurodivergent? Let's see a show of hands. Right, so the great thing is now we all know what this is, and it's okay. There's a spectrum of just the way that we function in the world. And that I think that diversity just makes it more inclusive and also makes the world so much more interesting.
Anything to add? If not, we'll move on.
No, I think we're
Yeah.
good. That, beautiful. Thank you for sharing the statistics. I think
Yeah, it's good. So what I always like to find out is, okay, so this is, you both are very authentic to this specialty of wellness, and you talk it, you feel it, it's in every cell of your bodies. How do you talk to clients about this? Like what, you want to, I think in some ways it's intuitive as designers, you honing in on their needs, but how do you find out what their special needs might be? What's that sort of swagger that you bring? Yeah, Lisa.
I really lead my website, my marketing, my early client discussions. Obviously, I get on stage whenever I can to talk about this. And so I really lead my entire business and my entire life with my design philosophy and my life philosophy, which is that of sanctuary. And for me, that's a very personal word. That is something that came to me in a really sublime, if not divine, moment and experience. And, I really let that permeate every single thing that I do. And it isn't just, as Patricia said, this isn't just something that is a trend. Although I think it has become a bit of a hot topic in our industry, and I'm glad, but this isn't a trend for me. This is something that I have been living and breathing and experiencing for 20 some odd years. So, it has a deeper tie for me, and I think that really on my end, to be able to have that as part of every conversation with clients, it then leads to my ability to ask them, in-depth questions. Tell me about your family members. Tell me how you spend your days. Describe a morning, your routine. Describe to me the personalities of all of the people who are going to be spending time in these spaces. And, I really take that effort and that extra time really to get to know them, to really go there and sink into their energy. And I'm sure all of you who are designers here feel this way, but a lot of times what they don't tell us is as important as what they do. We're very intuitive people, or we wouldn't be good at what we're doing. It's that ability to listen on every level. And so I think really, for me, it's the listening and the questions.
But I was just going to ask you, Patricia, do you talk about your personal experience with clients?
Well, to that point and Lisa's point, I think when you share a little bit of your vulnerability and say, oh, well, it's really interesting, I actually design a little bit differently, and you share your unique point of view, and we all, if you all are designers, you all have your unique point of view, and people really appreciate that. So coming with that candor right from the beginning lets down people's guard, and they're like, oh, actually, my child or myself, because they'll be a little bit more apt to speak about their children's needs over themselves. And they might not even know that a lot of these principles that we're going to discuss today it's inclusive design for everyone. makes the space feel amazing. And it's the differentiation of what do you get when you hire an interior designer? Well, with our expertise, you get so much more. It's the way the space feels, not just if it's really pretty. So I think sharing that, my point of view with people immediately gets them talking, and they're so interested, and they want to connect, and they want to feel good in their homes as well.
Yeah.
It also seems to me, honestly, like once you put this out there, and once you really do start sharing vulnerably, as Patricia so aptly said, like attracts like. The universe works on magnetics. So once you put that out there, these things absolutely come to you. They just really, you open that door and all of a sudden the floodgates have opened. And so therein, again, it's that opportunity for us as designers.
Yeah, I mean, it's like when almost everybody raised their hands, it's a point of entry. I also, as a writer and somebody creating a conference around cognitive disability, I always think I'm going to put my foot in my mouth with the vocabulary of disability, and there are some great resources to also help you talk about it, because when you're in conversations, I think with clients, like to be respectful and also I guess ask them too. It's the best way. So, okay. So I'm going to give you the clicker, and I'm going to have Lisa and then Patricia just kind of take you through a bit of their design process, what they think about in this space of sanctuary in your case. Yeah.
Just press this little green guy.
The green thing.
Okay.
Mhm.
Perfect. Okay, I'm going to start my time with you guys with just a very quick story. Those of you who know me have heard this story before, so apologies for those of you that do. But basically, about 15 years ago, I was at a moment of great inflection, personally and professionally. My daughter had come to a point where she had begun to have really deep, scary seizures. And not knowing anybody who had seizures in my life before this time, never having been around anyone with seizures, this was a really new experience and not a good one. And I'll tell you that as a parent, the minute your child stops breathing and turns blue and is non-responsive, you think they're going to die. So this is a very dark time. And she started having these seizures at night, and it was only at night, and it would wake me up at 2 in the morning. And so then, of course, the whole rest of the night, by the time you get her calmed down, no one is sleeping. It's the entire family that's involved at this point. And our life became this cycle of non-sleep, total stress, unknown health issues, in and out of children's hospitals, and this was what life felt like. And of course, at the same time, as life would have it, I was getting divorced, and my business was struggling, because who can concentrate on your business when you can barely even stay awake all day? So I was in this cycle of just terrible negativity, honestly. And I was out one morning walking my dog behind my house, and I was having a discussion and just thinking, I need a sign. Something is going to give. I can't go on like this, and this is not a way that is a sustainable life for me, for my family. Just please, something, a sign. But honestly, could you just make it a big sign? Because I'm really tired, and I'm not picking up subtleties right now. And so as I paused with my dog, it was dark. I love getting up really early in the morning. And as I watched the sun just start to appear over the trees at the end of the lake, there was this wind that picked up, and I promise you this actually happened. The wind picked up down the lake, lifted the ends of my hair just enough that it gave me goosebumps, and I stopped, and on the wind, I heard the word sanctuary, and it was whispered into my ear. And honestly, that was the sign. And I just thought to myself, wow, what a gorgeous word. It felt like the universe had thrown me a life raft, because I thought that is what I want. I want sanctuary. And imagine if I had a sanctuary for my daughter Chloe, where she could be safe, where she could be physically okay, where she could be able to express the emotions that she has as a fallout from these experiences that are terrifying that she's going through. And maybe everything could be better. Maybe this could be like a refuge. And as I went home that day and continued unpacking that word, I went to a business coach. I started working with a communications expert. I really went there. I even went back to school and got my master's degree because I'm like, this is the most beautiful word in the world. I have been gifted with this. What am I going to do with it? And just as a side, I find it fascinating that oftentimes it is through our deepest, darkest, and hardest moments that transformation, it just comes in. And that is our opportunity to really find our greater message, our greater purpose for why we're here and what we're doing. And clearly, this really has become mine. So as I went home, I thought, all right, I'm going to tap into my design knowledge and I am going to make a sanctuary for Chloe. And so what is that going to be? At the time, she was 10. So what does she need? Well, I need to stop having furniture that's up in the air because the girl is falling all the time. I put a big, thick plush carpet in her room so that all furniture could be down on it. It was soft. It would receive her if she did roll over or have an episode. And then I thought more, well, what else? I mean, we take in our spaces and our environments through our senses, right? I mean, all of us do. This is not just Chloe. So what is she seeing? I took my paint deck in her room. I sat on the floor and looked out the window at the leaves and the sky, and I thought, I need some of that grounding energy in this room for her. And so I matched colors so that I could get in and out, kind of with a blurred line. And then I thought about what she was smelling. I added some aromatherapy in there for her, and she really responded well to that. I didn't realize that the mucus glands that are in our nasal passages, when you inhale those fragrances and those oils, they go straight to your bloodstream. It changes the composition of your nervous system in that moment, like everything calms back down. And I thought about what she was hearing. I added some speakers. I'm lucky enough to be married to a musician who writes the soundtrack for Sanctuary, and so I put some of his calming music in her room. And all of us know, can anything change the mood of a space faster than music? I mean, if you want to get going in the morning, what do you put on? You put on something to pick you up and get you going. And if you come home from work and you had a really long day, sometimes putting on something really soothing is just the antidote that you need. And then I thought about what was touching her, like how soft of fabrics can I put against her skin? What kind of a down nest can I make in that bed for her so that she's really surrounded? And you know what's funny? I created this space for her, and within a week, the entire tenor of my family changed. Because instead of Chloe coming out of her room, aggravating everyone, kicking the dogs, oppositional defiant disorder is not for the faint of heart. Really, the behavior was terrible. But Chloe now had a place where she could go and get her frustrations out. She could punch those floor pillows. She could sing karaoke. She could really go and get back to herself, center and ground in her own space that was designed just for her sanctuary. And what's interesting is in all of that, over time, I realized, I could use a sanctuary. Honestly, it's not so easy being her mom, and my husband could use one, my son could use one. And as I created these spaces for all of us, the entire vibration of the family lifted and everything got better. I sorted out all of the issues in my business, and life became much more tolerable. So that sign, that word of sanctuary, is so near and dear to me and very personal. And one day when I was writing in my morning pages, I wrote the line, it just came through, that when we have peace in the spaces that are around us, it inspires peace in the space that is inside us. And I truly believe that is true. I have found it for myself. This is a very empirically science-driven decision in my part. And it is through that I have really shaped my business. So, just showing you some of the design principles that I work into my spaces, again, back to the natural world. Nothing has more healing energy than the natural world. So I always take into account whether I'm designing in Naples, whether I'm flying to Munich, whether I'm going to California, to Montana. We design all over the world, but I spend time getting to know the location that this particular place that I am designing in is located. And I think think, this particular slide shows some of my work in Florida, but you can see we really take into account the water, the natural textures of wood and bark and palms. Florida is a veritable font of gorgeous outdoor influences, which I love. And here's another showing some of the lines and materials. The bathroom that is there in the middle top, that connects to a view of the Gulf of Mexico, and it picks up the exact horizon line of the water that is outside. It's just so unbelievably beautiful. A couple more. We are in the process of expanding our business right now and having a footprint actually here in North Carolina. So trees are something else that I really love. We bought a property deep in the woods that we're developing as a sanctuary that we're going to be able to share with people and have retreats. And then I will leave this for you. But I really appreciate all of you coming in today to listen to all of this, and I hope that you will find some inspiration that you'll really be able to take home and use in your own businesses. And I know both Patricia and I are happy to answer any questions you have during the panel, but also after, so please do seek us out.
So regarding neurosensorial design, it's a term that I came up with to help describe the type of design that I do in healing spaces, because you want to find those elements that really make you feel grounded. And for neurosensorial design, there are 3 key aspects. So one is biophilic design, which Lisa touched on, and that is choosing elements of nature to ground. So the palette, exterior palette comes to the inside, and then of course choosing every chance you have to make a decision to choose something that ties with nature really does make the space feel more grounded. The second element are sensorial, so the 6 senses. I just wanted to make sure you all were awake. I said 6 senses, not 5. So it's the 5 senses that you're familiar with, plus the addition of how a space feels. And the third element is salutogenic design, which means thinking about the client and their health and well-being and creating habits rather than focusing on their debility. And then also accessible design, so bringing in some of the specific accessibility things that they might need depending on what their neurodivergent cognition is. So when you tie these 3 elements together of biophilic design, neurosensorial, and salutogenic, it helps reset the nervous system, creates calm, provides a sense of safety, and really allows a place for support and growth and connection, which is, but also something that's great for all of us, especially in the world today. Everything is so busy and fast, and it's so nice to be able to be home and just to recharge. So I'm going to walk you through, let me start with this outdoor space. So I'm going to take you on a tour of this outdoor space, double chaise lounge for 2, maybe you and your dog, overlooking the valley below. The niche carved out of the hillside, lined with rock to provide a sense of safety. Local river rock underfoot for reflexology. Aspen trees above providing shade and wind song of the leaves rustling in the mountain breeze. Nearby, water flows over a water feature, creating a soothing sound for you to recharge. In this space, living room, aptly called the observatory, for the 180-degree views of the Teton mountain range. The space is grounded with the leather granite hearth, wood-burning fireplace, and large sofa for gathering. Underfoot, you have walnut wire-brushed flooring for texture, for accessibility, and heated floors for warmth in the winter. A swing in the corner frames a mountain vignette, biophilic touches of the fir poofs, and coffee table has wood slices, petrified side table, and the shuffleboard connects the adjacent kitchen, allowing for a social hub and a place to gather, also converts to a table for family meals and game night, and then the space extends to the outdoor deck, a place where you can get the fresh air, the indoor-outdoor connection, and al fresco dining. The horse focal art and custom barn doors and neutral palette are the focus of this equine bedroom. Horses have been used for therapy since ancient Greek times as connecting to nature, providing calm, and creating a space where you do feel connected. And further, the nuzzling of the horses helps you snuggle in to this primary suite. The headboard wall is covered in a faux hide wallpaper, which grounds the space with the glazing. And the shading controls by Lutron, which helps for establishing circadian rhythm. Fireplace and heated floors helps for the long winters. And then the space here also connects to outdoors with a sun deck with infrared heaters and a Zen garden that was inspired by Rowanji in Kyoto, Japan, for reflection, and a bubbler fountain, also creating the soothing sounds and habitat for local birds. And here, a focal forest bathing, Shinrin-yoku in Japanese, is the beauty of this biophilic bathroom. You have organic elements in the leathered countertops, twig hardware, wood grain cabinetry, and hydrotherapy and chromotherapy in the jetted tub. There's also a steam shower and a rain head shower with eucalyptus infused in the shower, so that's your aromatherapy. And it looks out onto the same Zen garden below. Moving on to.
So I'm like lulled. You just lulled me with those descriptions. I mean, right? And Lisa, when you were talking, I mean, you always smell so good to me, but it's like I get sanctuary from hugging you. But there was like this peppermint. Did you smell? I don't know where it's coming from, but I'm like, they are just, you vibe with it. But okay, so I loved just you describing every piece and with intentionality that went into those rooms. I mean, it's incredible, really. So we didn't really talk about this in our prep, but with all that intentionality, here we are at Market. We didn't just come to do this panel. We came to find new resources to make these incredible spaces. So I think let's have a little discussion. How many people have never been to Market? All right.
Oh,
yeah.
welcome.
So welcome for your first time. I would love you to just talk about some of your favorite places that you like to go that you feel either by virtue of the design of the showroom or the products that they have where you are finding, some of the good, really important resources. If you could share. Yeah.
I have been coming to Market for a really, really long time. And Market has evolved so much, and there are always new things to see, which I love. So the truth is, I actually come primarily to see kind of what is new and great. But honestly, there are so many resources with beautiful wood furniture, with beautiful natural materials, and I always come and just comb the halls so that I can see everything that's new. And what's interesting to me is as all of us have more interest in these subjects of well-being, of creating spaces of sanctuary, of designing with intentionality, the vendors are responding because they want us to come and buy their things. And so I'm seeing more and more, the availability of beautiful raw wood tables, of petrified woods, of leathered finishes on tabletop that is marble, just so many different things that are out there. And I'm trying to think if there's any in particular. I shop almost everywhere, and I find little bits of things everywhere. And I also find it interesting some of the way that they are incorporating really natural crystals, because I love the healing energy of the earth in my spaces. And so I'm always looking for those raw crystals. I don't so much love the faceted ones, but I love the ones that are really left in their natural state. So a friend of mine, I don't know if any of you buy from Curry & Company, but Aviva Stanoff is a friend of mine, and she designs a line for them of crystal chandeliers and sconces that the first time I saw them, I swooned. And in fact, I bought one of them and I hung it right in the front lobby of my studio, because when you walk in, I created this big, gorgeous moss wall. I really wanted that, clear quartz crystal amplifies, and so I really wanted to amplify that nature experience and that healing energy in there. So curry is a really good one. The Phillips collection also has a lot of natural live edge tables and wood stumps. I'm trying to think of a few more. Maybe you can weigh in and I'll think while you talk.
Yeah, so for me, I've just been to market a few times. This is probably my 4th or 5th time. It is very overwhelming for me as someone with neurodivergence. So I do plan, I'm a little bit more studied. So I actually start with the educational part, which is I look at all the panels that I want to go to. And maybe some of you all did that because market really kind of starts tomorrow, so you wanted to come and see this, so we thank you for coming. But that's how I start my schedule and try to learn. I'm always learning what I can for design so that I can pass that along to my clients. And for actual design in the IHFC building, they have the new products and vendors on the ground floor. It's just amazing. And you will see some of those breakthrough products. And I think with the rest of the, as far as furnishings go, it is, you do have to sort of go around to the different vendors, and maybe when you're at a panel, it'll be hosted by a furniture company, and try to see what appeals to you when you go into those spaces, because there's really not one vendor who everything's biophilic and everything, and all on the spectrum of neurodivergence. There are different items for different people, so it's not really a formula like go to this company and you can buy all the furnishings there and everything will feel great, right? It is a little bit more studied than that. But then my background is also textiles, so I do love going to a lot of the textile vendors and seeing what their collections are, both in fabrics and wall covering. And I think there's been a lot of new development in wall coverings that are almost, there's some that are 3-dimensional, there's some that are sound absorbing, which I love, because even in a small space, for me, I have a hypersensitivity for hearing, so anytime I can add soft furnishings and fabric and wall covering that's sound absorbing, that is very comforting to me. So those are some of the places that I go.
I thought of another one while you were talking. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Wendover Art, but that's a really wonderful resource for framed artwork, and they have all different types, but they have a lot of like really large format photographs that literally like you feel like you're walking out the dock over a lake or looking right at the ocean waves, and sometimes that can be a very immersive experience, but they also have a lot of other pieces as well, so that's a good one too.
Yeah, there's so much. I want to say also, the Sustainable Furnishings Council puts out a list of their members, and I find that, you know, when we're having this conversation between healthy materials, sustainability, and this topic, there's all the vends, you know, there's a meeting point there, and also the Healthy Materials Lab, if that comes out of Parsons School of Design. John Sauerruth is here at a new building that just opened called 313 Space. And so they have a large booth with several vendors there, so some good education. Okay, another topic. Well, speaking of market, here is Chelsea House. Lisa debuted a collection last, a year ago, or April.
Yeah, you know, we debuted a sanctuary collection with Chelsea House about a year ago. I've been designing products for them for 10 years, but they came to me and they said, Lisa, we really want a new collection, and we want something based on a philosophy. We don't want it just based on a designer anymore, and we so love what you stand for with Sanctuary that we really would love a Sanctuary collection. And so I sat down and I thought, all right, so if I am going to design some pieces that can support what I would call a daily sanctuary practice, and if you want to know what that is, I would say that that is anything that helps you come back to you, right? Anything that helps you. Contemplative practices are a part of a daily sanctuary practice. Maybe that is writing in your journal, maybe it's meditating, maybe it's reading something inspirational in the morning before you go. And so I wanted to have some elements for the home that could be really infused with my intentional understanding of sanctuary, and be able to bring some of that heightened energetic vibration to people's spaces. And so I thought about what kind of motifs that I would want to use, and you know, I am completely obsessed with sacred geometry. I just think that it is such a fascinating and richly historied subject matter. I'm just endlessly taken with it. And so you can see in these pieces the flower of life that we designed into the front of these display cabinets. You know, part of being and creating a sanctuary for yourself is surrounding yourself with things that remind you of good times, that make you feel good. And we all have things, whether it's a photograph of a family member maybe that isn't with us anymore, a special something that our grandma left to us. Like, we all have these things. And so having a place to put them that can keep our spaces neat and tidy at the same time was an important part of that. Another thing that we designed into this, apart from sacred geometry, I'm also really interested in transformation. And that's actually why I went back to school, because I wanted to understand what makes people transform their lives and what can make it stick. Because, you know, we all have gone to these conferences and come to seminars and we're like, wow, that's great. And then we go back to our life and we forget what we learned. So how can something like sanctuary, the concept of this deep well-being through our spaces, really get into people's awareness? And then how can they use that for lasting change? And so transformation is this ongoing interest of mine. And when you really look at where transformation starts, crystals are an example of transformation, aren't they? I mean, they start as basic rock, and over heat and time and pressure in the earth, they become these precious, precious stones. And in addition, when you look back to the very beginning of the starting of the world, you know, butterflies, birds, these were at one time more land-based. And so over time, they evolved to have wings and fly. And also, plants, the way that they transform. In the ground, you plant a seed, they come out, you know, some of them eventually flower. So these elements that represent that process of transformation, I also love. And you can see the tray that's on that blue slide that has butterflies and flowers and things on it. To me, this carries that sort of energy, and it allows us to have spaces that have more than one use. If COVID taught us anything, it's that our spaces have to be flexible, right? And so a dining room might be a schoolroom, a Zoom room, a boardroom, and a dining room. And so how do we do that? You know, trays with the things on it that help appoint rooms for different tasks stored in a local cabinet can be a way to do that. So that's another one on there. You can see some selenite pyramids on there, a mirror that has a little bit of one of those sacred geometry designs at the top. But this has really been a labor of love for me, and it's something that I'm going to continue doing. I have in mind a sanctuary home collection that can really have things for all different areas of the home, and kind of a place that people could go online and really see put together all of the things that you might need in creating a space of sanctuary for yourself or for others.
I love the thought that went into every piece
Thank
that you did. You know.
Thank you.
Were you gonna?
I was just going to say, so there are some new pieces this market. If anybody has a chance to swing by Chelsea House, it's such a beautiful showroom anyway. But this will be something to keep an eye on and to watch as it continues to evolve.
That's exciting. I was actually there the other day.
Oh, you were?
Yeah, the showroom is looking really good.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So just, I love the whole branding, marketing. You know, you definitely have a niche. I mean, when Linda and her friends said, we're going to do this day of programming, you know, they knew who to call. So you're known for this. How do you share that and put it out there into the world? You know, how do you, I'd love to hear, I mean, this is a bit of marketing and branding and sharing your ideas with others. Patricia, how are you getting your word out? What are you working on? And yeah, how do you do that?
Sure. Well, that's the whole point, is this is such great information, and we want to spread the word. And so I'm working on an ebook, so not a beautiful $100 coffee table book that will just sit on your coffee table and no one will ever look at it, but an accessible book. I hope to be published globally in different languages. I think we have a tendency to be very micro-focused just on the US, but as we saw, there are 2 billion people who identify as being neurodivergent. So these principles also don't have to be in luxury homes only. That's not very accessible, if you will, to the rest of the population. So there are a lot of principles that you can employ that have a very low cost as well. So writing an ebook, and then also, I'm sure Linda will speak a little bit more about it, but collaborating with people who have your same point of view and Linda's working on a central website where there's a place for people to go then to get the word out, because the market is saturated with so many different, you don't even know which way to go anymore. And I think interior designers are even more important today, because just to shift through and shuffle through all of the choices for your home, I mean, it could take you 5 years to make a decision because there's so many products and choices. So specifically for this education, I think we're just now trying to roll and see how do we reach the most amount of people. And that's by collaborating and having a platform where everyone can share and everyone can get the information.
That's a great question, honestly, and I appreciate that. One of the reasons that Patricia and I have bonded, and there have been many, is that I'm also writing a book, because I really feel, as she does, there are only so many spaces of sanctuary that I'm going to be able to design within my lifetime and in my career. But this understanding is much bigger than I am, and I have been gifted with this understanding and with this possibility of sharing. And so that really is what I am changing my business into. I'm kind of, continuing to shape it moving forward so that I can share this more, so that I can share this across broader audiences. And so I can also have a book that people can read, and that will develop into a speaking series for me. I have done online classes in the past. During COVID, I did 7 Days to Sanctuary that people could take and really create spaces for themselves during that time when we were all kind of panicked and bleaching our groceries. So, I think I continue to watch the evolution of where our country and where humanity is going, because I want to meet people where they are. This is an evergreen truth. Sanctuary is not a trend. And so how do I continue to evolve this so that I can really be delivering something that people can use? I think for us, for my husband Philip and I, we also want to open a retreat center at some point, and that's why we bought a property here in North Carolina. I think it's the perfect foil to the beautiful, oceanic Naples. I think as we go down with the ocean, then we can go up with the mountain. And so, being able to have that counterpoint, I think will be really interesting. Yeah.
You have the clicker, Miss Patricia, don't you? Or who is the clicker? Could you just click to that? Okay. So I think, would anybody like to ask questions? Because we can continue talking, but I'd rather hear from you if you have questions of these two women. 10 minutes? Mm-hmm. Paula?
Patricia mentioned something about salutogenic.
Salutogenic.
Can you explain that?
Yes, sure. So salutogenic means where you're taking health support and habits through nudge architecture. So creating homes where you are helping encourage healthy habits, for example, in supporting that individual. And so it's a different type of design. Rather than just making a space pretty, thinking about really getting to know your client and understanding, what does a day look like? What do they have to remember? What do they need to be able to reach? How do they ambulate? So with low vision, I have a lot of hypersensitivities to sound and vision. And so as the person walks through the space, and so thinking about those, but more so on a positive note, creating spaces that really support them, so positivity, versus on the debility and just saying, well, we don't really know what to do about all these things. And so you can look up salutogenic.
Spell it.
SALUTOGENIC, and also look up nudge architecture. And so if you have the opportunity to design a home from the ground up, you can really think about, what does their day look like from the beginning they wake up? Do they remember to brush their teeth? I mean, someone who's had a brain injury, there were a lot of things I couldn't remember, a lot of short-term memory. Like I would think, oh, on the calendar on the fridge, it says take out the trash. I would turn around to go under the sink and forget what I was doing, right? Or I would forget my kids at the bus stop. So, just understanding your clients and what are some of the things that are frustrating, and how can you set up their day where things are in clear, organized containers, but also closed cabinetry. Because if you have a lot of exposed shelving with a lot of items, that's a lot to process. And so for sensory processing issues, you want closed cabinetry, minimal design. You notice those designs I showed, very minimal, just what you need to support yourself. But then there is closed cabinetry that has all the useful things that you need to run your daily life.
Linda?
You know, there's also a really wonderful interior designer out there named Dr. Esther Sternberg, and I really encourage all of you to look her up. She is a powerhouse, and she wrote a wonderful book called, I believe it's called Healing Spaces, and she really has gone there. She really has done the work. Her work is primarily in healthcare, and she serves as a consultant to healthcare institutions, but she really has a lot of the same belief system that I do, and she talks a lot about how many of the hospital spaces do not actually heal people, not really. You know, they're there to identify what the thing is and treat it, but they don't truly heal. People are not cured from going and spending time in a hospital, and I think that that's fascinating, and I think it's another way, you know, just to go back to COVID for a minute, all of a sudden, when COVID came, I woke up and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is it. Like, we have never needed sanctuary more than right now, because now people have to heal at home. How many people were sick and didn't want to go to the hospital because they didn't trust being out in the world, and the world felt scary, germ-filled, and like it was going to kill you? So, you know, that really is something for us to think about, and it's something for us to really, I think, take the time to research. Is something I hope you will take away from our talk this morning. Is there is so much information out there. You know, there's also an architect whose name is Don Ruggles, who I have followed and met, really a lovely, lovely gentleman. And he is involved with an architecture school out in California that also studies neuroarchitecture, neuroaesthetics, and a lot of these other things. So it's great that finally science is catching up with things that I think a lot of us have known intuitively all along, but it gives us something to step out on as designers. And for those people who feel that when you start to talk about a word like sanctuary, for example, and they're like, ugh, this is very woo-woo, it's not. You know, we really can ground this now in the actual empirical science that is coming out and in our own experience.
Wynette?
Hey everybody, I'm Wynette. I'm with Furniture Lighting and Decor magazine. So you want to pick up on these big, beautiful purple magazines in the bins downstairs. But I was going to turn you guys on to Home Trends and Design, because they do gorgeous, eco-friendly, handcrafted furnishings. They have a brand new big old showroom at 118 North Ren Street. And they are doing a panel from 3 to 4 on Sunday called Designing for Impact, Empowering Designers to Lead the Way in Sustainable Furnishings. And so you may want to put that on your ticket. Gorgeous wooden furnishings. I love this company. And then afterward, they have jazz, live jazz, and cocktails. So, oh, and by the way, Patricia Kennedy is our designer profile in the November issue.
Oh, congratulations,
Thank you.
Patricia.
She stopped me so bad because this fierce woman wrote the story herself and sent it to me. Then, this is how fierce she is. She knows InDesign. She designed the story, dummied our fonts and our brand colors, requested a spread, and she's also very sweet because then she gave me the byline at the end.
Thank you, Wynette.
And I was like, you get the byline, honey. I can't tell your story better than you can. So she's incredible, and I'm just so happy to be here, get to meet you.
Well,
Thank you,
you know,
Wynette.
just that's cool that you mentioned that, because there are several editors here, and being a former editor, you know, they always dump things on you, and so when a designer has that skill of writing, and Lisa has written, and you've obviously written, that's a great way to get yourself into a magazine or into a newspaper. Say, I'll write it, and.
Well, it was really sweet because I got an email from Wynette, and she said, so I just need to know a little bit about you, and it's due day after tomorrow. And this is someone who's neurodivergent. And so I'm like, okay, I'm not panicking. Where are my crystals? I need to ground myself. And so, but... So the hurricane.
Yeah.
So in between there, we were getting the house ready for a hurricane. I just had knee surgery, so I'm dragging around the house and thinking about what to write. And then I was lucky because it was similar to Lisa. I just felt like I was channeling my story, which thank you. I am just now speaking. It's taken me 14 years to be able to talk about it. And so Wynette said, "Well, you're leaving the reader hanging because we want to know what happened to you." And I said, well, you'll have to wait for the book.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah. I want to just say, I had a conversation yesterday, and we're in the business largely of luxury design, and we have clients, and we create these beautiful spaces, and they may be neurodiverse, be on the spectrum, but they might not be very have acute disabilities. And I spoke to somebody yesterday who's the mother of a 7-year-old. It's like, yeah. And she was saying, she would love to have a nice home. But I kind of feel like when you have a baby and you have to put that bumper on your cocktail table and it just makes everything just horrible. I feel like for people that really have a child or an elder at home, we have to press our industry to do better, because she was saying, like, I can't have lamps. We know how beautiful lamp glow gives us in a space, right? And her 7-year-old, who was verbal and then regressed and now does not speak in words, he's not toilet trained yet. So it's like upholstery. You want beautiful things, but you can't, or what can you do? So I think, like looking at your spaces, oh my gosh, to think about stones as giving me a reflexology buzz, in addition to grounding and all this. There's people out there that really need to grasp at something to make their homes the sanctuary, to feel good. And I don't know if we're there, I don't think we're there yet, or we just have to really look hard and do that. So when we do our event in High Point, we are doing a session for the community, because I think also we are so privileged to have these discussions in our industry. Like you were talking about salutogenics, it's in healthcare, it's going to come into design, and then it'll go into the consumer. But I think, to really meet them where they are, and so just to be aware of that, sorry, that might have been a Debbie Downer, but I feel like it's like we need to figure out something for these people, because you will have clients that have real issues, and you'll have to design spaces that are very more focused and more specialized.
Well,
Yeah.
and to that point, I think if you have someone who is on the higher end of the spectrum, then you will have occupational health. You'll have the health care where they can sign a disclosure that you can share information. So you can understand more specifically if that family has higher spectrum needs, to be able to work hand in hand with the healthcare professionals, because we're not doctors, right? We're trying to do this. When I was told by the doctors, you have permanent brain damage, you're never going to recover. And here I am today, able to remember what I was going to say, have eye contact, engage with you all. It's really a miracle how you can adapt. And a lot of that adaptation was done at home through trial and error. What makes you feel good so you can recharge and become the person that you were meant to be.
All right, and on that note, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that presentation. And I just want to add in that it's hard for me to say this because I am neurodivergent, and I always knew I have been, and I've spent my life bullied, or my entire life being bullied. But for me, the environment that I need, and the way you describe the sanctuary, I need that too. And I love the idea of a modern environment. I love minimalist. I love white walls. I love the punch of color. Like, this gets me so excited. But I can't live in that. And I think as designers, and I don't remember the exact statistic that you gave in terms of the amount of people. 2 billion globally. 66 million. 66 million live in the United States. That's a huge market for you to be looking at. That's incredible. That's 20% of the population of the United States that have identified themselves as neurodiverse. And so whether it's a situation that Lisa's discussed or Patricia's discussed, or somebody like me that just needs a darker environment that gives me a hug when I come home and holds me, it's a wide spectrum. So don't think neurodiversity is only about people with autism. It could be somebody like me that has high anxiety, that gets out in the world and is like squirrel, but then has to come home to to kind of just find that sanctuary space.
You know, I love that you brought that up, and I'm sorry that one of the points that we missed, but I'll just grab it quickly. You know, being neurodivergent is not a light switch, right? It's like mental health. It's not like you're either healthy mentally or you're unhealthy mentally. It's a spectrum, it's a continuum. And neurodivergence is the same. And I really feel like that is why, honestly, probably most of us have neurodiverse issues. Most of us experience both good and bad mental health over a lifetime. And I think in that way, we can really be compassionate with our fellow travelers along this path of life because we're all having issues. And I think that's why, as designers, we have this great opportunity now to really plug in with these deeper understandings of where other people are and really provide these environments that can just really help people thrive in their lives. So thank you for bringing that up.
No, you're most welcome. You know what? When we're not feeling well in our environments, the consumers or your clients need to call you and say, I need you to come and fix this. Because we do that, neuropaths. In that industry, if you're not feeling well, you'll call a neuropath or you'll go and you'll go to a health food store to, sorry, I'm dyslexic. You go to a health food store to get, herbal medicines or whatever, so you're not having to take the man-made ones, or I have gone to a chiropractor because of my back. So why am I not thinking about you when my environment is not good, when I'm stressed out when I come home? And I think it's really important too, is that there's two people that live in our family, a husband that is more OCD, and then there's me that needs to be surrounded, and I have to see the things in my life because I need to be reminded of the stories. If I don't see them, I forget things really easily. So we're all different, and there's nothing wrong. We're not the am I saying it right? Vitruvian man? Am I saying that right? Say it again. Vitruvian man. Sorry, it's my dyslexia. Vitruvian man. You know, we're not perfect. Every one of us has something, and I think it's really important that you recognize that and bring that into your design practice and bring it into your marketing and your messaging. And as the ladies up here have said, collaborate. Jane's going to have a fantastic conference, and if you can't make it this year, it'll certainly be back again outside of market. But reach out to Jane if you've got stories and information and things you want to share. And Lisa, with her sanctuary and what she's building in the books, and with Patricia, here's 3 new people that you can add into your roster of connections. So thank you all, and we're going to start the next one shortly. So thank you very much.